4.2% of our students are actually guaranteed access to that education. The biggest purpose is to give young women a voice. Nevada is ranked 49th in financial literacy education. We're expecting kids to take out these massive loans to go to college.
Look at all the jobs in the economy and sort of say, well, that looks like something I'd like to do. And all I have to do is this. As Bitcoin becomes more popular, it is going to force an end to the current version of banking. You can't make $100,000 worth of loans because each individual unit of currency has its own serial number. But for people who do, it would be great if they had the tools and just to understand what's possible for them. Hi, I'm Dr. Ori Nagy. Welcome to the Dr. Nagy Show. Today I'm here with Julia Bush, the Miss Summerlin winner from 2026. She's going to talk to us about financial education in schools and what it was like to win Miss Summerlin for Nevada. Thanks so much for being here on the show with us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, can you tell folks about your journey coming here to Nevada and how you received your award and this plan that you've got to help kids with financial literacy?
Yeah, so I went to school in New York City, which I received my bachelor's in public accounting and then my master's in taxation.
Okay.
I went on to then become a licensed CPA in New York. Okay. I worked there for a while, especially in the entertainment tax space.
It's a very competitive environment in New York.
It is. It takes a lot, but it's definitely worth it. You get amazing connections, and that's actually how I ended up out here in Nevada. I asked to move somewhere warm. Okay. I do not like the snow.
So you're with a big national firm?
I was, yes.
Okay.
And they transferred me here to Las Vegas with my entertainment tax background.
Oh, got it, because there's so many entertainers out here, and that makes sense for them.
Exactly.
And now that we have all the athletes here in town, too, that in a way they're covered under the same kind of CPA, the same kind of tax guidelines. Is that right to say?
Yes. If you're looking at like entertainment celebrity tax, okay. Which was actually my specialty when I worked at one of the big four accounting firms.
How is the tax law for entertainers and celebrities different than it is for the rest of us mortals?
Well, honestly, it really isn't that different. You know, we all have kind of our basic tax return that we all file. Mm-hmm. It pretty much is just access to basically just simple ways that we can move money around that maybe some people with less income don't necessarily have to do. Okay. But the tax regime is pretty much the same for all individuals, whether you're at the tippity top, you know, or not.
Well, that makes us all feel a little bit better, doesn't it?
Yes, there's a lot of information out there that says that it's not, but as a CPA,
so Britney Spears and Michael Jordan, they still have to pay taxes like
correct.
The rest of us. Okay, good to hear.
Yes, and they usually pay a lot of taxes.
So they're glad to know people like you then.
Exactly.
Got it. Well, you're probably sworn to secrecy in terms of who your clients were, because you guys take oaths just like doctors do, right?
Correct, yes. So definitely can't disclose any of the people that I have worked with or that I'm currently working with, but I have met with and worked with some of the big players here in Las Vegas.
Got it. Well, I'm sure they're happy to have you here in town then.
Thank you.
So are you still working as a CPA?
Yes, I am. However, okay. I have switched to being the personal internal accountant for a local business owner here, okay. as well as managing his companies. Got it.
Okay. There are a lot of very successful people here in Las Vegas, and I can see how many of several people I know would benefit from having somebody who could oversee their operations.
Most definitely.
So that's great. So it's a satisfying move for you then.
It is. I love it out here. I was a military brat growing up, so okay. I have lived in quite a few places. And I tell people that I think Las Vegas is the best place I've lived.
I tell everybody the same thing, too. Right? I've gotten to travel all over the country, and I still think Las Vegas is the best city in the world, in fact.
I agree.
Okay. So you lived abroad, or you lived just around the U.S.? Or
Just around the U.S. Okay. My father was in the Navy, okay. So we kind of stayed along the East Coast. Okay. And no one understood why I wanted to come to Vegas because I've never lived on the West Coast. I don't have any family out here. But like I said, there's nothing like Las Vegas, and I love it.
So when did you get out here?
I moved out here in 2022.
Okay. All right. So this is going to be your fourth year now.
Yes.
When did you decide you wanted to be Miss Summerlin?
So I used to do beauty pageants as a child.
Okay.
It's actually been 15 years since I did a beauty pageant, but I still kind of followed the pageants. I'm part of the Miss America opportunity.
Okay.
That is what our pageants are through.
Okay.
And one of my good friends who I actually did beauty pageants with in Virginia actually just won Miss America this
Wow.
past year.
That's
Yes,
awesome.
Cassie Donegan, she's spectacular. And so I always would watch the pageants and cheer on, my friends through the years, and just seeing her win just gave me that gumption, that extra step that I needed to be like, well, you know what? I should throw my hat in the ring. I should give it a try too. And I did, and now I'm Miss Summerlin, and I'll be competing at Miss Nevada in June.
Oh, wow. So it's coming right up.
Yes, very,
Okay.
very quick turnaround.
Right around the time of the elections.
That's
All right,
correct.
so we can vote for each other then.
Yes.
Well, that sounds great. There was a time I thought where the president was involved in the Miss America pageants in the country. He had either some ownership or some participation some way.
He was, I believe, and I'm not entirely sure, but I believe that he was the owner of the Miss Universe franchise,
Okay.
which is separate than the Miss
I see.
America franchise.
Got it. I had a friend who used to be a judge for one of the pageants, but I don't know which it was. One of the neurosurgeons here in town.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. So he always had good stories, like of interesting people he met.
The Miss Summerlin pageant was earlier this year then, or was it 2025? And it just you get when you win in 25, you get the banner for the year in 26.
Yeah, so it was 2025 October, and exactly just how you described it, 2025, but you win the banner for 26. And they started doing that actually relatively recently because they want the girls to be able to have their full year instead of kind of starting in the spring sometime and not having your full 2026 to serve your community and wear your crown. So,
Well, that's a good thing. I'm glad they do it that way. Then. So what was the pageant like?
the pageants, they're very time consuming, I think is the best word. The women that compete in these pageants, they prepare 4 months. And I don't think a lot of the young women actually get as much credit as they do in what they do to step on that stage and compete. But the pageant is not just about beauty. They always say not the most beautiful woman always wins sometimes. I'm sure that was probably the case in my pageant. But
I don't know if that's true.
but the biggest purpose of the pageants is to give young women a voice to speak on issues that are important to them, and be able to make connections, practice their public speaking, and ultimately serve the community that they are representing.
What was the message that you wanted to put forward?
So the message that I've been working with, especially as a CPA, is financial literacy education for K through 12 students in our country, namely Nevada. Nevada is ranked 49th in financial literacy education. And the way in which our current curriculum is, even though on the books we are supposed to give financial literacy education to all of our high schoolers, the way that it is currently structured, as of 2025, only about 4.2% of our students are actually guaranteed access to that education. So I've been trying to rework not only the curriculum and getting things in our public schools, but I've also been partnering with local organizations like Junior Achievement of Southern Nevada to provide financial literacy education outside of the classroom so that we can kind of supplement their learning while it's still not necessarily in the curriculum.
Are there websites that provide good education in the surf arena so the parents could guide their kids to that avenue?
Most definitely. Junior Achievement is a international organization. They have branches pretty much in every city you can think of. So I think the perfect place to start for any parent would be to find their local Junior Achievement. Go on their website. They have lots of free worksheets, pamphlets, teaching materials that students can look through, parents can use to teach their students. As well as you can also get connected to some in-person events and also connected to other educational resources. So their website, Junior Achievement, is kind of like a one-stop shop for financial literacy for kids.
Have you reached out to any of the charter schools or private schools here in town? I know I just attended a few weeks ago. They had a large convention where a lot of the charter schools had put out tables to inform parents of the different pathway they have or the different take they have on providing new education. I got really excited and inspired to see all of the different people innovating and presenting their version of what ideal education would look like. And what it looks like is what it looked to me like is at the end of 2 years, people are going to start to recognize, this school is doing it a little bit better than the other schools, and whatever they were doing, all these other schools are going to want to copy, and we're going to iteratively improve education in our state. And I would imagine most people would want their kids to have financial literacy. I think that'd be a fantastic place to sort of drop the seed of the kind of information that you're trying to make sure our kids learn about.
Yeah, I haven't reached out to any charter schools or private schools yet, especially since I'm not from here originally. Has been difficult kind of trying to integrate myself into the school system.
Sure.
But I have a couple connections at some local high schools, as well as I teach financial literacy courses at the Windmill Public Library for teens.
Nice.
So I've been kind of connecting with teens in their high schools through that.
Okay, that's really great. We do a thing with nutrition in the school system, and it puts us in touch with the head of the Nevada Association of School Administrators, and maybe connecting with him, Jeff Geis. He's a great guy, and he might be able to put you in touch with some educators throughout the school district who would be interested in talking to you to learn how to implement the things that you're teaching into their school curriculum. I would imagine at a minimum, some of those things that you're teaching would fit into a math curriculum, right? As you're teaching the kids to add, you're doing your bank accounts, or what do you teach the folks in terms of financial literacy? Like what does a kid need to know in first grade versus in 12th grade?
Yeah, so behavioral psychologists believe that as early as 7 years old is when children start to develop their understanding of money.
Okay.
And, buying, selling. And so it's never too early to start teaching financial literacy. And it really just comes down to obviously education level on what you should be focusing on. At the lower levels, needs and wants, buying, selling, maybe some, aspects of business and entrepreneurship. Okay. But when we get to the high school level, what I would like to see is more focus on budgeting, more focus on understanding credit and loans, especially since we're expecting kids to, take out these massive loans to go to college, and we're not preparing them for that in the slightest. I've seen a lot of curriculum in other states where they do kind of more so focus on budgeting, which is a great skill to have, but we're not teaching our kids credit, loans, and things that we really need kind of real world the second we step out as adults.
That's really important, what you said. And one of the things, I worked on the Governor's Workforce Board many years ago, and in the healthcare sector, we had created descriptions of all of the jobs that were available in the healthcare setting. So from being a nurse's aide to an x-ray tech to a physician, people could sort of see how many years of education it took, what the hours were like, what the pay scales were like, and could decide, they could sort of see themselves in those roles and like what their life would look like and what they'd want to pursue if they were switching jobs from where they were before to what their new future might look like. And I always thought it would be great to provide that same opportunity to kids in middle school. If they could just look at all the jobs in the economy and sort of say, well, that looks like something I'd like to do, and they make this kind of money, and that sounds great, and all I have to do is this. And it would save a lot of people the trouble of having to go to college if that's not something that was, going to be their cup of tea, or that they found a life that was much better for them in this arena. And being able to make appropriate financial decisions while looking at that kind of information, that really should be, part of something I feel like every kid in junior high is exposed to. So we really should sit down with Jeff and go through all this stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to.
Because okay, we'll have to make that happen. I'll make sure to find out the next event that he's having. He's got one coming up in February. So we talked a little bit about financial literacy. We talked about the Miss Summerlin program, and we talked about how that's a pathway to Miss America. Is there a big pageant program here for young kids in Las Vegas?
Yes, so we actually have what we call the the Little Sister program. So that is for young girls of pretty much any age. If they want to know what it is like to be a title holder or to compete in these pageants, they actually shadow us when we go out and make our appearances. And so it's really fun to be able to connect with those young women in our community, see what their interests are and their likes, and how they can add value to our organization through the pageant system.
It's really great for young kids to have role models, but it kind of creates pressure on you because it's a lot to live up to.
It is. It definitely is something where you're going from you're just being an everyday accountant to now all of a sudden you're someone people want to take pictures with and people want to know about you, and young women look up to you, and it's a big deal, and I definitely do not take it lightly.
Well, that's really great. What kind of message would you like to send to young girls out there now who are considering this as a pathway, or considering becoming a CPA, or considering becoming Miss America?
My biggest message for young ladies and just young women and girls in our country is to not let people put you into a box. I was definitely in that box for a long time as a CPA. I didn't, I've always been interested in the pageants, but I was like, well, but I'm a CPA. I do this thing. I can't do this creative, amazing, outward, extroverted thing. And so I really did put my box or myself in that box for a very long time. But I want young women to know that in America, you truly can be anything.
No, it's great, right?
And you could be multiple
Fantastic.
things at
Yeah.
one time. And so don't let society or your parents or whoever tell you that you have to be this one thing. If you have a dream, go out and try it, because the only way that you could possibly achieve that dream is if you try.
So what was your talent?
So I am a singer.
Okay.
For the Miss Nevada pageant, I will be singing a Latin piece.
Okay. Wow. Like a classically trained singer then.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
yes. I was classically trained as a kid, and then throughout my teens, I actually did a lot of musical theater, and then I threw that all to the side and went and got my master's degree in tax. But yeah, so I sing. The young women that compete have a wide array of talents. It's really, truly amazing to see what the young women of Nevada are offering.
I know there's a tremendous number of very beautiful, very talented, intelligent women here in Las Vegas, and I'm sure the competition is fierce out here. When if people want to tune in and watch the show or the competition, how do they tune in and check it out?
So I do believe it will be live streamed on the MissNevada.org website. Okay. And it is the last weekend of June. I can't remember the exact dates, but it is a 2-night competition. So we'll be doing half of the competition on the Friday and the second half of the competition on Saturday, and then crowning will be on Saturday.
Got it. All right, so now I'm going to ask you some selfish questions, because
Okay.
I have some tax questions and some questions about about finance, and I'm kind of focusing a little bit on Bitcoin.
Okay.
So one of the concerns that have come up is that as Bitcoin becomes more popular, it is going to force an end to the current version of banking that we have in this country for 2 reasons. One is because it will be an end to fractional reserve banking, since when currently in a bank, when people make deposits and they have, say, they get $1,000, they'll take that $1,000 and they'll make $9,000 or $10,000 worth of loans. And but when you have Bitcoin, if that was $10,000 in Bitcoin, then you can't make $100,000 worth of loans, because each individual unit of currency has its own serial number. Right. So you can't duplicate that. And the question is, how do you replace fractional reserve banking? How would you do fractional reserve banking in a situation where you do that? Or what would be the replacement that you would see for fractional reserve banking in order to spur our economy, to contribute to enable us to have enough cash and liquidity to invest in the new technologies as they arise at the rate at which we do now? I have this belief that one of the reasons that our country has been able to so rapidly adopt new technologies is because we allow such liquidity in our country, because we have so much extra capital floating around. People can take huge risks And if they fail, they can declare bankruptcy and start again. I mean, it's harder the second time through, so you don't like to ever have to fail. But that kind of ability for risk taking that our economy can absorb
is something that enables us to figure out more quickly than other economies what the best version of that technology is, and then allow that one to excel. So I've been struggling a lot to figure out, as we adopt Bitcoin, what are we going to do to continue to innovate at the rate that we do?
I think the key to Bitcoin and other virtual currencies is the blockchain technology in how we trace and track. So when you're talking about how with making loans, can't just turn it around and give it to somebody else and duplicate it, and that is the part of the blockchain system and why virtual currencies, especially Bitcoin, is something that is more stable because it does have that blockchain technology.
just so.
And so I think, to your point, there might need to be some adjustments to blockchain to make it a more liquid and an easier currency to pump into an economy. Because the biggest thing right now is we're not necessarily seeing, from an economic standpoint, we're not really seeing a lot of businesses start implementing virtual currency. That's not a payment option, it's debit or credit. And so I think that if we can start getting that technology easier to access and on a broader plane, our companies can start using that. And eventually we can make that switch that I know people are pushing for, of kind of switching completely to this virtual currency.
So a friend of mine is helping Circa, the Circa Casino, to adopt Bitcoin and other stable coins as a mechanism of exchange. So you're going to be able to go up there and pay for really everything in the casino with your Bitcoin. And that right now they have some gold bullion up at the top floor in their club that they have on display. And I think they're going to replace all of that with Bitcoin, so you can sort of see the current price of Bitcoin go up, which will be interesting. But if you were doing the accounting for that hotel, would it be easier if everything was running on Bitcoin, or would it make it harder, or is it something that will be really kind of trivial from your point of view and transparent?
I think it really comes down to the quality of the transactions that we as an accounting department would receive. It really depends on what type of stablecoin they're using, and if we can track down that currency, we can see the transactions, we can see what's coming in and coming out, then it really doesn't necessarily matter. Accounting, actually I should say tax accounting, is a lot in the abstract. Obviously we don't have the physical money in front of us when we are preparing people's taxes, but we do have tried and true reputable statements from banks, other accounting firms that we rely on. So if we can find, and I'm sure there is, I haven't been working too much in virtual currency myself, but as long as we can trust the data that we're receiving, I don't think it will really change anything from the purpose of preparing taxes or keeping track in an internal accounting.
Uh, is AI something that's been making a big change in the accounting space?
So there's a big push for it. I'm actually, I'm not a very big fan or supporter of it from the perspective of what people in the accounting space want it to do. I think AI is an extremely valuable tool that we can use as tax accountants, especially because we don't know everything. And so it can be a very great supplement to tax accountants. However, the conversation that I've been hearing in the accounting space is using AI to replace lower level accounting. And there is a lot of accounting that is it's repetition, and so AI could easily take that. However, though, I personally think that long term we are actually crippling the accounting profession, because if we don't allow entry level people to actually learn those basics, those things that seem simple to us as tried and true accountants, no one is then going to grow into being a tried and true accountant because they didn't get that practice of working a basic clerk job. And so I'm kind of against using it in that context of replacement. I think it's great from a supplemental perspective, but I think long term, when I think about it, I always tell people I'm pretty safe as a tax accountant. When it comes to careers that require a lot of trust, same thing with you in like medical, it is going to take a lot longer for people to be comfortable trusting a machine than they are, trusting someone that they have a connection with, they see face to face. So since accounting is such a high trust profession, I think that it will be a long way until the general public is okay with having AI do their taxes.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think maybe it'll be the kind of a thing where the person who's sort of face to face with the client is just able to handle maybe 10 more clients a year or 50 more clients a year than they could have otherwise, because they'll understand those tools are just getting the answers back faster than they would have if they had to maybe manually crank through them all.
Right, and I think also from a tax planning perspective, it's amazing because it can come up with ideas that maybe you didn't think of yourself. Tax is a very experience-based job, so if you've never done it before and never seen it before, you may not actually think of that option for your client. So I think that AI has a lot of benefits, especially in the tax space, to providing better service to clients. Yes, if we want, we can talk about, I've been kind of thinking about what the federal government can do from a financial literacy perspective, if we want to talk about that.
I mean, the federal government does provide guidelines on education.
Right.
And so they can make money available for programs within the education system or create requirements for any entity that's receiving federal funding for their education system that they include sections on financial literacy. I think there are several people I've spoken with over the last several months that have pointed out this exact issue, that they wish that there was some kind of financial literacy that was being taught to kids to help enable people to become financially independent. I mean, not everybody wants to, become their own boss and take on those kinds of risks and work those kind of hours. A lot of people would find a lot of, peace in just, doing something different than that. But for people who do, it would be great if they had the tools and the education and just to understand what's possible for them. And so I agree with those folks. And no one has yet presented me with language in a bill or a specific direction to take, like we need to state it this way to add on to what we have currently. For that, I think it would be helpful if I was pointed in the direction of an advocacy group that had taken the time to sort of examine the laws that we already have, to say this is where we are, this is where we could be, and this is the right direction. If I had something like that, I'd be happy to lobby for that and push it forward, because I think it is an important thing for us to do, particularly here in Las Vegas, where people, in my opinion, are much more free than they are in the rest of the country, and they think with the kind of flexibility that you don't find in other parts of the country. People who start their own businesses here, I think, are much more likely to succeed than elsewhere.
Right. I'm not familiar with any lobbying or advocacy groups from a political standpoint here in Nevada, but it's definitely something that I should look more into so that we can kind of come up with language. And exactly what you said is that, the federal government is not allowed really to create curriculum. They really do leave public education up to the states. So I have quite a few things I would like to say, to the Nevada legislator. But from a federal perspective, I think, like you mentioned, the biggest key is going to be funding.
But we'll get you in touch with Jeff, and Jeff will be able to sort of he'll find somebody within the Nevada system of education who knows where we stand today with financial literacy and who's been looking at that already. There will be somebody or some group of people over the last 20 years that said, I think we could do a little bit better, and they'll have started the process, and they'll be able to help you move it a little bit further down the field, which will be great.
That would be excellent. Definitely always looking for connections. I do know that we have a financial literacy committee in the Department of Education in Nevada, I believe.
All right.
I don't know how active they are or anything like that, but I know they exist.
All right, well, you've got homework for the next time we meet.
Yes. Yes, most definitely.
All right. Well, thanks so much for being on the show today. It's been fantastic. I really appreciate you coming on and letting us get to know you, and letting everybody know about the options they have for pursuing financial literacy, for pursuing a path to bettering themselves if they want to pursue a path to become a Miss America pageant contestant. And we'll look forward to your victory here coming up in end of June.
Thank you so
Best of
much.
luck. Fingers crossed.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks.
This podcast is a campaign communication paid for by Nagy for Congress and authorized by me, Dr. Nagy. The views and opinions expressed by guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the views of the campaign or its affiliates. Discussions are intended for informational and conversational purposes only and do not constitute legal, financial, or professional advice. Any references to public policy matters reflect general positions and priorities at the time of the recording and are subject to change based on legislative process and voter input.